Coming up on Arirang News, South Korea is battling its third wave of COVID-19. No sign of it slowing down, prompting the government to consider even tougher distancing rules. The South Korean government announces a huge expansion of child care benefits to address the country's low birth rate by making it easier for people to start families. And Hyundai Motor Group reshuffles its executives, bringing in a new generation of leaders, especially in its future businesses like eco-friendly and self-driving cars. It's 5 p.m. here in Seoul. Thanks for tuning in to Arirang News. I'm Devin Whiting. The spread of COVID-19 in South Korea is showing no signs of slowing down yet, despite the stricter measures put in place this week. The Prime Minister says there could be even more measures to come, but that decision should not be made hastily. Jang Tae-hyun reports.
South Korea reported 880 cases of COVID-19 on Tuesday. Of those, 848 were local and 32 were from overseas. The majority of the cases came from the capital region, with 246 from Seoul, 274 from Gyeonggi-do province, and 55 from Incheon. But cases are also popping up across the country. There were 62 cases at a nursing home in Gimje, Jeollabuk-do province. About two-thirds of those were residents at the home. The confirmed patients have been transferred for treatment, while the rest of the residents will be moved somewhere else for cohort isolation. Meanwhile, South Korean Prime Minister Jung Se-kyun held a meeting on Tuesday and said that we should not be late to raise the distancing level to its highest tier, level 3, but we shouldn't make the decision too hastily.
Considering the weight and effect of the level 3 distancing measures, we have to first check if all of us are following the current measures. Most people do keep to the guidelines, but some inattentive and irresponsible people are pouring oil on the flames of the fierce outbreak.
He added that one-third of those working at public institutions have to work from home, and he advised government departments to inspect violations of COVID-19 prevention guidelines. Jang Tae-hyun, Arirang News.
Foreigners living in Seoul and people in other countries say the best thing the city has done to stop COVID-19 has been the drive-thru and walk-thru testing centers. The city conducted a poll online from November 30th through December 9th. Drive-thru and walk-thru tests ranked top, followed by a help center for foreigners that offers counseling and translation in 8 languages, including English, Vietnamese, and Filipino. Next was the city's Clean Zone stickers, which show that a facility has been disinfected. Around 9,600 foreigners took part in the survey. Releasing the results, the city said it will continue working hard to help its foreign residents and visitors in the pandemic. In its latest effort to turn around South Korea's low birth rate, the government has announced an expansion of child care benefits. This includes money to offset hospital bills and to supplement incomes during parental leave. To pay for it, the government will set aside around $180 billion through the year 2025. Choi Jung-yoon has more.
The South Korean government at Tuesday's presidential committee announced an expansion package to subsidize childcare, with the aim of tackling the country's low birth rate. Starting 2022, households with infants below the age of 1 will receive 300,000 Korean won, or roughly $275 every month. This will be gradually increased to around $460 by the year 2025. The government will also dole out 2 million won, or around $1,830 to women who give birth to help cover parental expenses. This comes with an increase of over $900 to the current $550 in the congratulatory allowances. This results in a total of more than $2,700 worth of childbirth costs covered by the state. The package also includes extra perks for working parents, aimed at increasing the number of couples who go on parental leave to 200,000 by 2025. In 2019, a total of 105,000 people were either on maternity or paternity leave. Under the new package, couples with a child less than 12 months old can each receive up to $2,750 of their monthly salary if both parents take a 3-month leave from work. The amount of money decreases depending on the period of leave and to the lowest amount if only one parent takes time off. Also, the government will supply more than 27,000 rental homes over the next 5 years for families with multiple children, and will gradually change the standard for so-called multiple children families from the current 3 to 2. Hong Nam-gi, the Minister of Economy and Finance, wrote on his Facebook page that the country cannot avoid a demographic drop-off unless preparations are made now. The government will inject $180 billion by 2025 to counteract the low birth rate issue. 최정윤, Arirang News.
Time now for an in-depth look at the market news this afternoon, and for that I'm joined on the line by Mr. Daniel Yu, Global Strategist at Yuanta Securities. Mr. Yu, good to have you back on.
Good afternoon.
Well, stocks in New York started out stronger Monday morning, but closed mixed. Investors are concerned, it seems, about more lockdowns despite the rollout of vaccines in the U.S. Only the Nasdaq was higher by 0.5%. What's the story in the global markets?
Yes, as you said, Dow Jones ended lower, and the S&P 500 booked its fourth consecutive fall on Monday, as the Dow Jones shed about 0.6%, and also S&P 500 declined by about 0.4%. However, though, Nasdaq continued to gain its momentum and has risen by about 0.5%, and also small and mid-cap rose by around 0.2%. As you said, the vaccine news was clearly positive, and that resulted into quite strong rally of the U.S. market in the morning. However, as the morning passed, as we got into the afternoon, the optimism kind of faded as the New York City Mayor Bill warned the city that it could experience a full shutdown soon again. And it seems that that might be happening across the U.S. borders. Now, the new infections continues to rise, and with more than 219,000 cases reported on Saturday, and total death toll now surpassing about 300,000. Clearly, these kind of death figures and the new infection is making the market to be a little bit jittery. Nevertheless, the vaccine is actually quite optimistic in the sense that by end of March, over 100 million people will be injected with the vaccine, and that next year this issue about COVID-19 might fizzle down. And if that's the case, then economic recovery will come through. So therefore, market seems to look at that possible economic recovery in the future. That's why we don't see a massive correction, but rather a soft correction, and that might last probably till end of the futures and options closing date, which is the December 20th of this weekend. So before then, I think the market might be showing somewhat of sideline movement, but in the future, after the possible vaccine news and the possible economic recovery coming through, market will probably start to move up again.
Well, Korean stocks were mixed today, too. The Kospi is still above 2,700 points, but down for a second session in a row. Strong buying again by retail investors, foreigners, institutions selling. What's happening in the local market? Yes,
Korean market also once again is mixed as yesterday. The Kosdaq is up about 0.2%. Kospi is down by about 0.2%, and the level of the decline is not that much. So the markets in Japan and South Korea are both grappling with the surging infection numbers and growing public frustrations, and that is resulting into the market correction. News of vaccine has powered the gains in the last few months, with the Asian benchmark up nearly 16% so far this year. But I guess recently some corrections is coming through and affecting the Korean market as well. However, though, the rally has been led by the markets such as South Korea, China, and Taiwan. And main reason for that is because these countries are specifically IT important countries with a massive manufacturing base. Clearly, the semiconductor business are doing quite well, and that is resulting into the Kospi rising quite nicely this year. And we think that that kind of trend will continue to happen in the future.
Well, changing gears here, Samsung Electronics recently did its annual reshuffle of executives, and now it's holding its annual global strategy meeting to make plans for next year. I think we can expect the pandemic to figure prominently in these plans. Tell us what you think they'll be discussing and what we should be watching for.
Yes, Samsung Electronics on Wednesday announced new presence for its lucrative semiconductor businesses, along with new chips for some of its affiliates in order to solidify its key businesses, but maintaining overall stabilities. If you look at the Gimje of semiconductor, and Ko Dong-jin of smartphones and Kim Hyun-suk of consumer electronics will retain their positions into the future. And Lee Sung-bae, which is Executive Vice President of DRAM Development, was promoted to be President of the memory businesses. Clearly, some of the reshuffling happening in order to improve the semiconductor businesses. In terms of the structure-wise, the SEC Samsung Electronics appears to position itself to increase utilizing its free cash flows to reinforce shareholders' return policies. And clearly, payout ratio has been rising, return to the shareholders has been improving, and that all results into much better performance of share prices. Looking into the future, the controlling family members should benefit from the high cash dividends in terms of the financing inheritance tax burdens we are seeing for Samsung's Lee Jae-myung. And looking into the future, we think that this company will continue to improve in terms of the corporate governance issues and will lead any other companies in the world, in Korea. And in doing so, we think that the cost can move up even higher because a company like Samsung is improving in terms of corporate governance.
Got it. All right, Mr. Yu, thanks so much for sharing your insights today. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
South Korean auto giant Hyundai Motor Group has appointed new senior executives. This is the first reshuffle at the company since longtime heir apparent Chung Il-sun became chairman a couple of months ago. Nearly one-third of the promotions are executives from Hyundai's future businesses, and analysts say this is a new generation of leaders. Ji-young has this report.
South Korea's top automaker Hyundai Motor Group announced a reshuffle on Tuesday of its main businesses. It has named a new generation of leaders to replace many top executives from the time of former chairman Chung Mung-gu. This is a first reshuffle since longtime heir apparent Chung Il-sun was promoted to chairman in October. His father Chung Mung-gu, now the honorary chairman, had served as the automaker's chairman since 2000. The company said around 30% of promotions were from the group's future businesses, including urban air mobility, self-driving cars, robotics, and hydrogen fuel cells. Analysts say by appointing a new generation of leaders, the automaker aims to expand its presence in future industries.
Hyundai Motor Group announced at CES at the beginning of the year that it will change its businesses to become a leading mobility solution provider. Through this reshuffle, the company aims to strengthen the foundation of its future businesses.
The group has promoted Executive Vice Presidents Jang Jae-hoon and Shin Jae-won to the rank of president. Jang, who is 56, is known as a close aide to Chung Il-sun and had been in charge of the firm's domestic sales business and its premium Genesis brand. Shin, who is 61, was previously running the company's urban air mobility business and is expected to play a pivotal role in accelerating this field. Hyundai Motor Group has also named two new executive vice presidents, Lee Kyu-oh and Kim Se-hoon. Lee was involved in Hyundai's electric battery platform, and Kim was head of the company's fuel cell center. The company also appointed new executives for its major affiliates, including Hyundai Mobis, Hyundai Engineering and Construction, and Hyundai Wia. Ji-young, Arirang News.
The number of foreign visitors arriving in South Korea in 2020 is expected to be the lowest in all the years since Seoul hosted the Olympics in 1988. According to the Tourism Ministry and the Korea Tourism Organization, 2.4 million foreigners landed in South Korea between January and October. This is down 83.6% on year. The number of South Korean nationals leaving the country decreased by 83% as well. If the trend holds, this will be the lowest number of departures since the Asian financial crisis in 1998. To strengthen business cooperation between South Korea and the countries of ASEAN, a finance center is going to be set up next year in the Indonesian capital of Jakarta. Seoul's foreign ministry said Tuesday that it will be set up in the first half of the year under the mission of the Republic of Korea to ASEAN. The center will provide financial support to Korean companies doing business in the region. It will be a follow-up on what the country's leaders agreed to at the ROK-ASEAN Commemorative Summit in 2019. It's also part of South Korea's new Southern policy, which aims to bolster its cooperation with ASEAN. The South Korean government is demanding that Google explain what caused its services, including Gmail and YouTube, to go down worldwide Monday night. This is the first use of a new legal framework passed earlier this month known as the Netflix law, under which big internet companies have to provide stable services and respond promptly to consumer complaints. The Ministry of Science and ICT said Tuesday that it has demanded that Google submit materials explaining the cause of the outage and to notify its local users of the outage in the Korean language. The so-called Netflix law was passed because of complaints in Korea that the streaming service was providing an inferior product to local users. And that brings us to the end of this newscast. Thank you for watching.